coming. We've got kind of a panel presentation, panel discussion. For those of you that don't know, this is something we've been working on for about 8 months now. I had a discussion with VESTA last fall to kind of start the ball rolling with how do we bring Viticulture and Enology certifications into Tennessee for a trained workforce. I know we all suffer from challenges with not only finding workers, but finding trained workers. After many discussions, we brought on some partners with TBR, who is Jennifer, is on the screen and on video with us. So Tennessee Board of Regents. We brought in Workforce Essentials to kind of work on some grant dollars to kind of help facilitate the cost of educating the workforce. And we brought in Chris from Pellissippi State to look at the future of the program in developing full-on AS degrees in viticulture and enology. I'm going to kind of let them run the discussion, but you know, I think what's really exciting about this is we've got a path starting this fall to take existing workers or someone that's interested in getting into the industry, have them do on-the-job training, take online classes through VESTA, and get certifications through viticulture and enology. After that, by 2020, hopefully, 2021 the latest, Pellissippi State will be able to fully adopt the VESTA program where those apprenticeship certifications will transfer into the community college system using Tennessee Promise and Reconnect, where they can actually go through and get their AS degree in viticulture and enology. And after our strategic development meeting, we're having some good positive conversations with UT on going straight to a bachelor's degree. So it is completely feasible that within the next 5 years, you're able to get a viticulture or enology degree here in Tennessee. So this is really important information. It will be videotaped, and we'll have it on Tennessee Wines later on for you to review. But I'm going to turn it over to Michelle to start. I'm going to step into the other room. Jennifer, feel free to take over the screen when you need to, okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you, and I do see a few faces I've recognized from past encounters over there. And of course, I got a chance to meet Chris this spring as well when we had our retreat, our summit. My name is Michelle Norgren. I'm the director of the VESTA National Center, which is VESTA stands for Viticulture and Enology Science and Technology Alliance. Some of you have met Bill Alter. He's my special projects coordinator. He was out here and kind of began some of the initial face-to-face conversations after Adam and I had some online conversations. So let's talk a little bit about Tennessee wines, and I'm sitting in here of preaching to the choir kind of folks. But what's in a bottle of wine? If you look at economic impact, $219 billion, and this is overall in the U.S. economy. 10,236 wine producers, 677,000 vineyard acres, 1.7 million jobs as you go on down. But when you go to look at Tennessee, so $1.9 billion in economic impact for the state of Tennessee. You have 67 wine producers, 488 vineyard acres and growing, 16,792 jobs, and that's the one part that we're focusing on is the jobs and needed jobs. $641 million in annual wages, tourist visits. So you can see there's a huge impact in the state of Tennessee, and you are a young industry within this state. So you're looking at an industry that's growing, and those numbers are only going to get larger. If you look at the economic impact overall, of course, the biggest elephant in the room is California at the top. Tennessee, economic impact 1.9 billion, 67 wine producers and 48. So the numbers are again kind of similar to the fact sheet that was on the previous page. But looking at jobs overall in the U.S., 65,000 jobs in the winery, 44,000 in the vineyard, compared down to 393 and 34 when you're looking at Tennessee. Again, for an industry that is rapidly growing. The total wine market grew to more than $70 billion in total value in 2018. More than 10,000 jobs posted in 2018, and the postings increased 6% over 2017 and 15% over 2016. So winejobs.com, you can see the growth in postings and jobs that are needed. And one of the interesting impacts is we are in an economy right now with a very low unemployment. It's kind of a bad thing, because that means if you need someone, there's not a pool of people dying to come in because they can get jobs everywhere. So the low unemployment is a good and a bad. So if you're looking at finding and training and retaining high quality employees, are you having problems recruiting qualified employees? Raise your hand if you're having trouble recruiting qualified employees. Okay. Do you have resources to train your employees so they can advance knowledge and skills? Do you have the resources to train them the way you want them trained? Yeah, maybe a little. Follow me around long enough, I keep throwing you enough stuff to do, you'll get trained. That may not necessarily be the training we totally want. And do you have problems retaining the best people? I know in Missouri, if you want a winemaker, you steal a winemaker from the guy down the road. So, and then that guy steals the one on down the road. And then that guy, the one at the bottom of the road, is left with, I don't have a winemaker, now what do I do? So, I mean, that is a condition for those of us in small states in an industry east of the Rockies. If you want a winemaker, you want a good high quality worker, you steal a high quality worker from the guy down the road. And you let him worry about it. So this is some of the comments out of Missouri. Over the last 30-year operation, this is from Corey Baumgart's, the challenge to find employees that are knowledgeable and skilled. A shortage exists at all levels, Hank Johnson from Chalmette. Need the means of developing the necessary skill sets and knowledge. That's from John Hill, owner of Stone Hill. Hiring qualified employees for skilled position remains one of the company's top concerns and challenges. Peter Hofer, St. James Winery. Finding and retaining good employees. Baltimore Vineyard in Waverly. So again, that problem exists everywhere, not just in Missouri, not just in Tennessee. What does it take to get a wine job in the grape and wine industry? Come on. You need to be competent. You need to be able to know how to use a clicker. There we go. So we'll kind of just flip through these. So these are the kinds of things when you look at job, you need physical requirements, primary duties. These are things that you'll find in job listings, required experience. All of those basically come down to the concept of knowledge. Come on. I'm not even sure where I'm supposed to be pointing this. Let me go over there. There we go. Yeah. So knowledge, skills, and experience. VESTA, I'll give you a little background on why we're involved in this. We were established in 2003 through a grant from the National Science Foundation in Advanced Technological Education. And we were, the concept of the grant originally was that we were in an industry located in Middle America of a rapidly growing industry with no way to support the industry with a knowledgeable workforce. If you wanted an education, you had to pack up your little kit bag and go off to California and go to Davis or Fresno, or go off to New York and go to Cornell or Virginia Tech, but there was no way to stay local and get the education you needed. So how do we provide an educational program to reach somebody who is geographically place-bound? Because most of the individuals in this industry are wanting to stay on the farm at the location, rurally located. So we developed that. We began as a project and grew from a project to a regional center. Project started out with 3 states, Missouri, Illinois, and Iowa, and then grew to a regional center, which we became 12 states, to a national center, and then currently we are an 18 national center partnership with 18 colleges and universities in 17 states. Again, our sole goal is addressing the workforce needs in the grape and wine industry through industry validated online courses. So all of our courses are online, but they are instructor guided, they are credit bearing, so they are full financial aid eligible. but they also have a hands-on component that you do at a vineyard or a winery close to where you live. There is also a live component once a week, and we do use Zoom as well. We provide mentored field experiences and workshops. Back up a little bit. So a combination of synchronous and asynchronous distance educational technologies. Synchronous being all together and interactive, that's the live component. And then asynchronous, meaning that a lot of your coursework is out there 24/7. And it is mobile compliant. So we have a lot of our features, Blackboard, a lot of the Zoom, all of that is available on the phone or your mobile device. We have a total of 39 online courses in 3 educational tracks: Viticulture, Enology, and Wine Business Entrepreneurship. An individual can simply take an individual course, take the one course they're needed, they're having trouble in their vineyard with pests, they take their integrated pest management, figure out how to handle their pests and diseases, call it good and go. Or you can work towards a technical certificate in any one of those 3 tracks or an Associate of Applied Science degree. Again, all of this is online. A curriculum that's industry driven. So we are led by 2 individuals, Dr. Ann Fennell from South Dakota State. She oversees our viticulture program. Kind of think of her like our viticulture department head. And then Dr. Barry Gump, currently at Florida International University. He's emeritus professor from Fresno, and he oversees our Enology program. If any of you have taken wine and must analysis, he and my brain just went. Anyway, he's one of the authors on the book that you would use in wine and must analysis. We have a dedicated instructional designer, Dr. Nicholas Farhoff, oversees all of the online instruction and works with all of our instructors to make sure that the quality of presentation is the way we want to present it, and that we're meeting all of our curricular goals and objectives. We've had over 1,920 students from 48 states, Washington, D.C., and 12 foreign countries have participated in our program to date. We have 25 students enrolled from Tennessee, and 3 of them are currently reporting that they work in the grape and wine industry. More of them might, but may not have self-reported. We have over 525 vineyards and wineries from across the U.S. have served as field sites. 4 of them in Tennessee, 4 vineyards, 7 wineries within Tennessee have hosted students in field practicums. Our VESTA students are working throughout the U.S. and the grape and wine industry have several established commercial operations. We have several of our students that have gone on to develop their own vineyards, correct? Their own wineries. We have a young lady that started a winery up in Niagara area of New York and Ontario. And the first year out, she had her 5-year plan all laid out like she had learned and everything. She blew her 5-year plan out of the water in the first year. So she was like, okay, well that was good. Now we need to plan for the next 5 years, so she's rapidly growing and doing really well. And that's just a couple of really good examples. So the students are getting out there and are entrepreneurial. Majority of our students are entrepreneurial. This kind of gives you an idea of our on-site field practicums, so over 500 industry partners, and we have a footprint all across the U.S. So besides doing the educational programming, which is our #1 focus, we've also worked on developing occupational competencies for 32 grape and wine industry jobs. What's interesting in this industry is there are not national standards for this industry. Not like firefighters or nurses or electricians or construction laborers or whatever that have national standards. The grape and wine industry does not have that. So we worked on developing those. Proposed career pathways and education requirements in the grape and wine occupations. Recognize the value of registered apprenticeships, and that's what's going to lead into the next phase of this conversation. And received approval from NSF to add a 4th goal to our grant program, which really focuses on apprenticeships. Received a grant from the Missouri Division of Workforce Development to assist the grape and wine industry in establishing registered apprenticeships. And from that, we have set up a template and a plan of a number of jobs that we are then working with other states like Tennessee and like Oklahoma and Wisconsin to get that kind of same launching of apprenticeships in this industry out in those states as well. We've received approval from the Department of Labor Office to serve as a sponsor for Registered Apprenticeships, and we're collaborating with Iowa and Michigan to increase the grape and wine occupations. So it's a win-win for the employer and the employee. These are the ones that are now approved. When we started this process, there were two. There was cellar worker, and cellar was even misspelled, and there was assistant winemaker. Those were the only two jobs that were approved in the Rapids database, and we have increased that to these that you see here. Currently, there are 30 grape and wine apprenticeships out of a total of 585,000 apprenticeships. Only 30 in the grape and wine industry. And 16 in Iowa, 11 in Michigan, and 3 in Missouri. So those are out of all the apprenticeships that are out there. This is where they're coming, and they're coming from the drive and the focus from the Midwest. Soon to be added will be Tennessee, and soon to be added will be Oklahoma, Wisconsin. So the momentum is growing. This kind of gives you an idea of the length of time for occupations. Vineyard manager, it's a 2-year apprenticeship. Vineyard foreman, 2, etc. Kind of gives you some and the number of on-the-job learning hours, and then the RTI, the related technical instruction, and how much that is a kind of an estimated cost. And it's using the VESTA cost for that. So if you're looking at a 2-year term for a vineyard manager, your related technical instruction would total $5,000, a little over $5,000. Not too bad for a fully qualified individual. And then lastly, before I pass this off, this kind of gives you an idea on wages. So Bill found this from actually his granddaughter. The grape and wine industry base pay for small wineries effective 2018. So if you look at the people want to they want to become a winemaker, and then they want to run off to California. Well, if you run off to California, Napa, your cost of living index is 177.5. So your winemaker, you're going to make about 105,000, or a vineyard manager 87. Comparable to that, if you come down here and pick Adkins Vineyards in Clarksville, their cost of living index is 92. So you're looking at the same wages, 54,596 would be comparable to Napa. So, Napa's a 6-figure salary, but you also got a 177.5 cost of living. So it is not only the dollars in the pocket, but the quality of living that you're going to have, and the attraction of being able to keep these people local once we get them educated, and the value of staying at home. All right. So that's it from me. I think I'm passing off to
Jennifer, I think.
Jennifer. And if you have any questions, I'll be around, and I'll answer questions later.
Jennifer, you want to take control of the screen?
I believe I have. I may need a little bit of help. It says I am sharing. Let me stop it and restart. Let's see if that
You're good. You got it. It's all you.
Okay.
It's all you. You want to go full screen?
All right. Well, good morning. My name is Jennifer Fuchs. I am joining you from the Tennessee Board of Regents. We have been very fortunate to partner with VESTA, and I just can't tell you how excited I am about this. I moved here 20 years ago from California, and so I can vouch for the high cost of living. I was involved in the wine industry here for a few years back at the turn of the century, and I experienced a great deal of frustration coming to this state for the lack of wine education programs here. I actually had to drive myself to Atlanta to study under a Master of Wine out of a program that was London-based, just to get an education in wine here in the East. So I was thrilled to death that VESTA is here with us, and it looks like we've also got our Vice Chancellor for Economic and Community Development, Nathan Garrett, here. And I'll just give a brief background on the Tennessee Board of Regents and what our role is in this very exciting apprenticeship opportunity, and then I'll let Nathan take over with a little more of the nuts and bolts of how it will work. So, the Tennessee Board of Regents, this organization is the largest higher ed system in the state of Tennessee. We have 40 campuses that go from one end of the state to the other. We have over 640 programs of study. We serve the needs of over 77,000 special industry students in 2017 and 2018. And we've done over 1 million hours of contract training for students. So we have a great deal of experience doing this sort of thing across the state. Now, in 2017, the Tennessee Board of Regents started the Department of Economic and Community Development. This was in response to the intense need for workforce training across the state and the great support of our former Governor, Bill Haslam. This department, which currently has 4 individuals working around the clock, was designed to be nimble, fast, and focused. We develop and deliver rapid response workforce training programs. We can move a lot faster than some of the degree programs. We hate to say credit or non-credit. We prefer to say workforce development for what we do. But we can move very quickly, and Nathan, as you will see, is lightning fast at getting programs delivered and apprenticeships delivered. So we can work out a little bit farther than the other degree programs and get things done very quickly for employers. We have many partners that we work with. We work with the Tennessee Chamber, the Department of Ed, Department of Labor and Workforce Development, and many others to bring programs quickly. We also recruit employers from other states. So our tiny department has folks covering every region of the state, and we can shoot this over to Adam after the presentation so you all are able to reach us anytime if you have questions. So, as discussed earlier, the Tennessee Board of Regents came into this project this past spring, and conversations did develop on best options for workforce development opportunities in the wine industry in Tennessee. So the result was a 2-tiered approach, which is just brilliant. Nathan has a short-term approach and a longer-term approach so that we can get things moving quickly. The short-term plan is for the registered apprenticeships. Now, when we say a registered apprenticeship, that simply means that it's a United States Department of Labor registered apprenticeship. So the Tennessee Board of Regents will assume reporting responsibility to the Department of Labor and take care of all the paperwork and things so that our campuses don't have to do it, employers don't have to do it. Our partner colleges, which we have 40 across the state, can assist in developing partnerships with companies, and they'll assist in apprenticeship administration. So Nathan, this is the quickest path for a structured workforce program that's scalable statewide. So as many of you know, and as I'm sure our friends at VESTA know, there are 5 components to a registered apprenticeship. They're all important, but some that we like to focus on are the related instruction and structured on-the-job training. So, the design of the Tennessee Farm Wine Growers Alliance Registered Apprenticeship Program. If Nathan wants to try unmuting, he may be able to give you a little more of the nuts and bolts in here. How about it?
Well, good morning. Everyone hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Jennifer, I appreciate that. Excellent job, folks. I apologize I'm not there in person. This is a really great program that we are super excited about. And thanks to Adam and VESTA for coming in and really putting the employer background behind it and giving me an introduction into the grape and wine industry. I will say that next time you see Jennifer, shake her hand. She supports you quite a little bit through her purchases, as do I. So we do appreciate it. I think for us, what we saw was an employer need for some skilled workers to help take care of your current responsibilities, and also, if we have a more well-trained workforce, we can grow and expand our footprint in the state of Tennessee. And so when we had a meeting several months back with the Department of Ag, Adam, we kind of had the conversation of where do we go from here? We've talked about an associate degree, we've talked about this, we've talked about that, and that's really where this apprenticeship thought process came in. The goal with this apprenticeship is to structure a training program that fits the employer's needs while also allowing individuals to work within your operations, grow their knowledge within your cultural fits, your cultural fitting companies, while they're receiving the educational information that they're going to need to help grow your business. And so at the end of the day, I think the main key here from a registered apprenticeship is don't reach for your safety glasses. We're not, you'll never have OSHA come in and say, hey, we're here to check up on your apprenticeship program. We do some apprenticeships with some subcontractors in construction, and as soon as we say USDOL, the first thing they do is, they go for the safety glasses to make sure they're following protocol. But for us, we want to assume all that responsibility. We want to be the partner with the United States Department of Labor to set this program up. Your interaction with this apprenticeship program is a couple different things. Work with our area colleges to develop that business community college relationship, as well as work with the Tennessee Board of Regents and myself, who will be the sponsor of this, to really understand how your company fits into the registered apprenticeship model. Right off the bat, I think our conversation, one of my biggest urges when we first start something is to start small and focused. That gives me an opportunity to understand where continuous improvement needs to be had. And so with working with Adam and a couple of employers throughout the state, we wanted to start off small and really target the production technician occupation for the wineries. And so that really gave us our first launch point. And so as we sit right now, we have the structure to be able to set that program up. VESTA came in and they were a lifesaver because, as we see in the state of Tennessee as of right now, we don't have a lot of educational programs for folks wanting to get into the wine industry. So VESTA has a pre-established program with some of the best programs in the country that we are going to attach to this registered apprenticeship model. So again, you're as employers, you're not going to have to deal with the Department of Labor. You're going to gain access to skilled workers. You'll be able to send incumbent workers through this training. And so to me, it's a really win-win for the wineries, the viticulture, the Enology folks throughout the state of Tennessee, and then the folks that you're wanting to keep in the pipeline to make sure that we can continue growing our footprint in this sector. So at the end of the day, I think from our model, we want to really take off all the boring paperwork stuff and let you guys make the wine, because we don't like doing paperwork unless we go home and drink the wine. So it's kind of one of those self-sustaining relationships that we've got going. And with the partners that we have in this room and what you'll hear, the first thing you're going to ask is, well, what's this going to cost me? I think that's a very interesting conversation, and from any sense, running a college or running a business, it's the first thing that needs to be asked. So I really think we've got a pretty good outline as we follow it. I really want to bring in Ms. Frieda right now. We've kind of talked about the overall structure of an apprenticeship program. I think it really is going to dovetail well with, now that we kind of have an idea of what this apprenticeship program is, and we'll probably need more conversation on a one-on-one basis with you, the employer, but what dollars are there out there to help support this? At the end of the day, the state of Tennessee has some funding support that we want to keep here in the state of Tennessee. So, Ms. Frieda, I believe if you're in the room, I'd love for this to be your opportunity to knock this out of the park.
Thank you. Okay, I'm the money person, so I'll be popular. Y'all are more popular, you're the wine people, but money's important. I did not do a PowerPoint, and I'm going to just give you this. It's got my contact information at the bottom. You'll take one and pass it down. I want to sort of explain what this could look like financially for you, because as Nate said, one of your obvious questions is going to be, how do we pay for this? And your employee, is going to give their time and their commitment to the process, and and they may not have the money to pay their own tuition. So in Tennessee, right now, we have a big push. I'm sure if you've listened to the past governor or the current governor, you've heard about apprenticeships. I think we're right on track for where we need to be as a state. But apprenticeships, because they're short-term training, they fall really well under the Department of Labor's business grant funding. And that's what this handout is. I've tried to keep it really simple, and for this first round, you would apply online, Jobs for TN. How many of you have a Jobs for TN account now with your business? Okay. Let me tell you what Jobs for TN is. Let me back up. You know, when we work with, as a partner, we're a subcontractor for the Department of Labor, is an oversimplification of it. But I've learned the value of Jobs for TN. It's a statewide database. You can enter an account as an employer, and you'll do that to access this funding. You can also post jobs through there, and particularly for entry-level jobs, I think it's utilized a lot across the state. People can respond to you. It's a mechanism very similar to any other web-based job posting and job application site. But it dovetails with labor market data, demographic data. It's how people file for unemployment. It's really a large capture agent of a lot of data for Tennessee. So one of the first steps I've outlined here is that you would go on to Jobs for TN. Hello, thank you. I guess y'all are picking my bag. Glad I have a nice fancy kimono on. I'll try to step differently for you. So you're going to establish an account, go to the website. There's a very short pre-application. That will trigger an email to me so that I can reach out to you and send you the more detailed follow-up. This is all about your business, the number of employees, that sort of thing. Nothing confidential at all or anything proprietary. It's basically filling out some business demographic data. You'll apply with that longer application. You'll send that to Adam. You're going to apply more like a consortium this first round. So rather than if you're in East Tennessee dealing with a local board there, we'll all deal with one local workforce board for this round, and it'll simplify things. We don't know what the numbers will look like. Each grant is up to $25,000. However, if there's more interest than that, we can ask the local workforce board to fund that at a higher level. So what does it cost your participant? You know, the goal with this grant is to fund the training component, the VESTA classes, the TBR involvement with it. Except, we think it's important for you as an employer to have an interest in it as well, and so does the Department of Labor. So this grant does have a 10% match. So for the purposes of what it's going to cost you, it'll be 10% of the training cost, and then the grant would fund 90% of the training cost. So a very small investment, and it's a great selling point. You may have someone right now that you're thinking as an existing employee that might just be great if you could get them a little more training. And those are the kind of conversations you need to be having within your own company. You know, who fits this model? Who do we think is ready for that next step that seems like they're fully committed to this industry and to our company? So you'll identify that person. Adam will gather everything, they'll send it to us. Our role as staff to the board is to get board approval, which apprenticeships are top priority now, so I don't see any issue with that. And then we'll notify the consortium, I'm using that word loosely, the group of you, and Adam will in turn let you know that the funding is there. Then we'll send you the individual application. So we've tried to keep the paperwork to a minimum, but it is federal grant dollars administered through the state. So there is a little bit of that paperwork. Couple of quick steps. I think it'll be pretty seamless for you. I've given you just a brief overview here, so you'll see we have taken a lot of the complication out of it for you. We really want to see this. We see this as a pilot. I think it'll grow. I think this first round will be very manageable. And as Nate said, it's really almost like you're a guinea pig, so that we can work out any kinks as we go through this process. Because you may ask questions that we didn't anticipate. We've tried to think it all through, but you may run into things as you're completing the paperwork that we we need to address. So we're real fluid, much like the TBR system with the Northern Middle Tennessee Workforce Board. If we need to adapt things as they come up, we can. So I enjoy that flexibility. It makes it easier to make you happy, and we want our business to be happy and successful so that you can attract those employees. And you know, our theme is sort of similar to TBR. We want people to have a life-sustaining wage. We want you to have great employees. We in turn want those employees to be able to support themselves and their families in a meaningful career. So keep this as we get into the process and get a timeline rolled out. This will be how you access the money, the training money. Okay? Yes.
Regional support for uniforms or galoshes, equipment, things like that?
On the grant funding is for the training component. If you have an employee, and this is where it does get into the personal level, if you need support for, I don't know if you require steel-toe boots, that's an example we often give. That is, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act does provide some support funding, but there are some guidelines for people to be qualified for that support piece. So this would cover the tuition. If you have someone with a barrier to employment, let's say a single parent with a low income, they might qualify for additional funding for work-related uniforms or required safety things that you have. And that is all handled on a case-by-case basis.
And you mentioned covering 10%. Michelle, did you cover cost of programs?
I did. There was a slide up there. We went through it very quickly, but there was kind of a generic slide on what would be the RTI cost for some of the different certificates.
So I think it's as low as like $300, I think, and as much as.
Yeah, one of them was 5,000 something, which means the growers would only have to put in 500.
And that was across a 2-year program too. So with VESTA, it's a pay-as-you-go kind of things as well. So you just pay per semester, but that would be total cost. And I believe when we were doing those calculations, that included lab fees, tuition, and may have included the cost of checks involved in there as well.
Books and okay.
Usually with a roll-up fee like that, it would be all-inclusive, and it is a reimbursement grant. So you are reimbursed for the training dollars. Yes.
So Michelle, the apprenticeship program, does it involve the TDY to do the weekend lab or the sensory, or is that the next step in the AS program?
No, if depending on the certificate that has been selected, if that RTI is included, then that workshop and the expenses of that workshop would also be included in those costs. But yeah, they would need to go to wherever that workshop is held. Those would be the only two off-site activities that would need to take place.
So if I'm in the Enology workshop, then the sensory and the lab are part of that certificate training program?
Yes.
Correct, okay, thanks.
And we're going to look at trying to bring those next year as educational components, the sensory 1 day and the lab work for 2 days. It's just a matter of fitting in when and where.
Yeah, and that's part of the agreement and affiliation agreement that we now have with Tennessee, is to be able to bring those workshops that we've been doing elsewhere to Tennessee.
So I know a number of people have done the Davis certificate program. How does this program compare to a program such as that?
The biggest difference, I mean, Davis has excellent education. Davis is not instructor guided, so you lose the value of that live interaction with your instructor. Davis also does not have the hands-on component that is essential in our program. And in the case of the apprenticeship, that hands-on component is going to be done at your workplace. So it's going to be your mentor will be your employer or the manager of the facility or whomever is your on-site manager, but you are going to do that at your facility. Again, that's the difference. When on the Davis program, if somebody has done the Davis program, at least the beginning of it, we will bring that in as the introduction to Enology component. They don't go nearly as in depth on a lot of the other operational techniques that we do in VESTA.
So if I've got an employee that say is doing an AS in fermentation sciences at Appalachian State, for example, do they have the ability, if their focus is on wine and enology, to concurrently do this enology certificate program while they're enrolled at Appalachian State?
They should. I mean, that really becomes a call on Appalachian State. We're fine with Appalachian State would say, yes, we'll do an emphasis area on our degree program and allow you to transfer in these VESTA credits or these credits through the VESTA program. And then that's a conversation with that institution. Most institutions, and Chris can definitely speak to that, has a limit as to what is transferable in for a degree that they're granting. And then in what years you take that. So you can bring them in more on the front end of it, but towards the end of your degree time, it needs to be more at that institution. And that varies by institution, varies by state requirement, but it really is just a relationship with that institution to talk about. And we've done that. I mean, we've had a number of VESTA students that have gotten degrees from Mizzou and University of Missouri Columbia in our state, and they want an emphasis, and they have a grape and wine education program, but they don't have the in-depth equipment and sanitation and some of those phases that our program offers. So they take those classes, they transfer it in and get an emphasis.
You remember the slide that Jennifer had briefly that had the 5 components of a registered apprenticeship, and I want to speak briefly to the on-the-job training piece, the piece that you will provide in addition to this training. You have another opportunity to help retain some really strong employee because it's a compliment to be asked to be that mentor. So use that as well as a retention tool. I think, unless it's going to be you yourself, and I hope you're in for the long haul, but there may be a mid-level person that can be that mentor that can teach, and that's another retention tool within your organization that, you know, very carefully select that mentor because that's a key piece in the on-the-job training. And many of you, depending on the size of your operation, that may be you, but if it's not you, then think about how important that piece of it is for the success of your apprentice as they go through this program. That's it.
Nathan, Jennifer, do you guys want to add to that?
No, I think at the end of the day, this was really our opportunity to provide an immediate workforce program for the industry in the room. And that was really important to us. There are current needs. There's not needs tomorrow or 5 years from now. We have current needs right now that we need to take a look at. And so by this short-term structure and developing this program, it provided a training avenue for the employee, for the employer, and with the partnerships that we've developed with VESTA as well as the Tennessee Department of Labor, it can be very cost effective for that company to participate. We do, however, understand that a long-term strategy is required, and so I try to walk and chew gum at the same time. Don't ask my wife. I'll tell you I'm really good at it, but she'll give you dirt. I think it's very important for us to understand that this short-term option is exactly that, a short-term option. How do we look at the future and understand that if we really want to grow this labor talent, we need a longer-term option. So I want to introduce Dr. Christopher Milne from Pellissippi State Community College. He's been integral in this. He's actually been to some VESTA conferences and has great knowledge. I'm going to have to jump off here in just a few minutes. I'm at another conference, but I will do this. I want to give you guys my cell phone number if you want to contact me personally. Actually, there it is. In order for next steps, I'm interested in this short-term option. Best way to get a hold of me is just shoot me a phone call on my cell phone, and then we can really get into the details of what in the world does all this mean for me and my company. And it's relatively painless. It'll cost you a few bottles of wine, and we can progress it through there. So we are so excited to be able to help you. I apologize about not being there today. But anything you guys need, shoot me a text, email me, call me. I've got a 3-hour drive home in about 3 hours, so I'll be looking for someone to kill that drive time with me. And with that said, I want Dr. Christopher Milne to come in and really outshine and kind of share what the long-term strategy of all this can be.
I will say, Nate answers his cell phone. You call him, he will answer. As Nate said, I'm working on the long-term strategy. I'm a professor at Pellissippi State. They came to us. We are the largest community college in the state. We've got over 11,000 students. We've got over 20,000 online students. We're basically, if you look at us, we're half the size of UT. We've got 5 campuses. The direction that this is going right now is to, and I'll give you a short synopsis and then a little bit about what it's going to take to get there. Everything that someone would take in the RTI and in the entire apprenticeship program can be applied to a certificate. Okay? Now, Rick, you said something about Appalachian State. Most 4-year schools do not offer certificate programs. Certificates are primarily done through a 2-year community college. Okay? So, everything taken course-wise, knowledge-based wise for the apprenticeship, and I will say it now, will be able to roll into a certificate. And everything that they take above the apprenticeship to earn the certificate will go towards an Associate's of Applied Science. I've already met with 2 members of the University of Tennessee, and interestingly, grape research at Tennessee left when I did back in a while ago. And they are thinking about trying to get it back. It's all based on funding, but they are willing to pursue taking everything that we bring in when we offer an Associate's of Applied Science in either Viticulture, Enology, or the Wine Business Entrepreneurship, and taking it to a full BS degree, which would be phenomenal. That's the real long term. Short term, first thing is, once we have all the parameters nailed down for the apprenticeship program, we've got 3 certificates that we're looking at. As I said, it'd be Viticulture, and I don't have extra, these are my working sheets, Enology, and Wine Business Entrepreneurship. There's the RTI side, there's the classroom side, that is where our emphasis is going to be. You've got how many classes online?
39 right now.
39 online classes. Every time we talk, the number gets bigger. What will happen is Pellissippi will develop all 39 of those classes, and they will be on our books. That gives us the ability to, when someone takes a class that we don't actually offer, it will transfer in because it's on our books. With me on that? It gives us the ability to transfer in credit of classes that are taken online that are taught by Highlands Community College in Kansas or University of New York SUNY, okay? And we can bring all those classes in, and a student in Tennessee can meld all that together to get a certificate. Now, because the certificate is through the community college, there is a certain number of classes that have to be taken through the community college. All right, you can't just take one class and get a degree from UT or anywhere. You have to take a certain number of hours at that school. We got a couple ways on this, a couple of things that are really good, and the fact that we already teach at Pellissippi 3 or 4, and I haven't identified the business classes yet, 3 or 4 classes. We've got the chemistry, we've got the botany, we've got the soils that they would need. So when you look at this whole thing, you've got a student in the state, you guys, as the growers or as the partners, are covering part of the cost. If a student takes a class that Pellissippi already has live on the ground, like soils or botany or chemistry 1010, Hope, Pell, Promise, Reconnect pays for that, and it doesn't have to come out of the amount of money you have from the state to pay for the rest of the other program. With me on that? The more classes we can develop on the ground, online, Michelle mentioned Zoom before. We're working now, and this is pushing a couple things together for us real well, to getting more Zoom classrooms. So while we have soils taught on one campus, we have botany taught on 2 campuses. Somebody in West Tennessee can take Pellissippi soil class on Zoom. With me? It's the live class. We'll have to work on how we do labs. They can take online classes the same way, all through Pellissippi, and develop and get their certificate that way. The Associate of Applied Science requires a little bit more. They have to take some gen ed classes. Some of the courses that we have, like the chemistry and whatnot, can count towards gen ed, but they would have those gen ed. By gen ed, I mean If you've got somebody that you have that's been a field worker and they want to get their AAS, they're going to have to take, yes, the viticulture classes, et cetera, but they're going to have to take their English, their math, their, social science course, things like that. That would complete the AAS degree. And most of that should be able to be done online as well. So it's going to be a process. It's not going to be the easiest thing to pull off right away, but it will work. I'm going to need some help from from TBR. I will need a little bit of help in the certificate side of things, but I don't think we've hit any major hurdles so far. I think it's a win-win. I think you told me that there's not a lot of states that have it to go from one end all the way to the other. So we could create a template for other states to follow as well by doing this. Any questions on the certificate side, Rick?
Well, I mean, as we move from the certificate into the AAS and DS, I know, I didn't mind the GI deal with VESTA at Missouri State. So there was this issue of class accreditation to go through to qualify for hold promise, whatever. Is in the end game, am I going to be able to do, online class ABC through VESTA, or is everything going to have to go through Pellissippi State with some kind of VESTA Pellissippi State partnership for me to be able to pay for it through Hope and Promise, or is there an accreditation that's going to occur?
No, to
that
pay
their program can be accredited in Tennessee.
To pay for it, for a Tennessee resident to pay for it with Hope of Promise, it's got to be through a Tennessee school. Because it's a program affiliated with Missouri, you couldn't take the Missouri class and get Hope or Pell or Promise or Reconnected paid for it. Which is why we'll transfer stuff in, but we're trying to get as many classes as we can to where Pell, Promise, Reconnect, et cetera, will pay for it that way.
So is that a problem with the way the legislation is written?
That's more a TBR question. I think it is basically if you want credit for if you want a degree in the state of Tennessee, you have to take your class in the state of Tennessee from a Tennessee accredited school.
Well, virtually I am. I mean,
But you're going the wrong direction. You're going that way and coming in as opposed to coming in and going that way.
And that's not uncommon. We have a similar program in Missouri that has, it's shown me dollars, but it goes to students taking 2-year classes within the state of Missouri, but you have to take it from a Missouri school. So even though they're in the VESTA program, if the class came from Highland Community College, their dollars could not apply to that. But any class that came out of West Plains, it would apply to that. So it's the same thing. And there's multitudes of those, every state, I think. And it's typically the usage of your state dollars for state education for state individuals.
And it's a logistical paperwork nightmare if we wanted to, because, some classes are out of Kansas. Your IPM class is out of New York. Trying to get all that to course equalize and whatnot, forget it. I don't have enough hair left for that. Ain't gonna work. But we are working on getting it as smooth and seamless as possible.
But federal funding, as you know, your GI Bill or the tuition assistance or Pell Grants and those sort of things, those are federal. And those would apply to anybody as long as they're on a declared degree path. So those still apply. It's only those unique Tennessee dollars that would apply to Tennessee classes.
Yeah, I guess that's a TBR question. That seems an artificial barrier. I want to take the program at Cornell online in agriculture. I should be able to use my Tennessee dollars to do that because I'm a student in Tennessee. I paid the Tennessee taxes to make that happen. Instead of having to feed, you're just forcing me to feed this Tennessee educational system for something that I can't get from it, that I want somewhere else. But I mean, that's a discussion.
Yeah.
Outside.
I think those are.
That discussion has been brought up and we're looking at it.
So Simon has already taken classes and received a degree
Who might that be?
from like the state of Junior College, UK. So can they do strictly online since they already have taken
To a degree, yes, and I'm gonna use you as an example, she was one of my students. Some of the classes you already took potentially would count.
Yeah.
Your gen ed classes would probably count, because you already have that part of your
We
program.
already have BA.
You already have your BA, you already have your, did you complete your associates? Or did you
No,
transfer
just went
first?
straight to BA.
Okay, so you went straight to BA, so a lot of that could transfer in. The issue you have is, every single school in this country, no matter how big or how small, wants you to do a certain number of hours through them before you get a degree. So there's only a certain amount that they would allow transfer in before they
But are
say.
there classes at Pellissippi that are online? I mean, I don't have time to go to campus. in my
That's
school.
why we're trying to
Silly.
develop as much of this
Okay.
online as possible. Everything that we have now, that VESTA has, is online.
Mm.
We're trying to get it as seamless to where you would take it through Pellissippi and take VESTA's
So if I
class.
have work that I don't want to send to it.
Right,
You said you had 5 campuses.
yes, sir.
Where are they?
They're all around the Knoxville area. We've got the Hardin Valley campus, which is our largest. We've got the Blount County campus in Maryville. We've got the Strawberry Plains campus out of Strawberry Plains. We've got Division Street and Magnolia Avenue. They're all in East Knoxville. But with the online component, I did a summer class. I had students from all over the state in that summer class.
And we're also in conversation too on some classes. So VESTA's classes are offered across the partnership. So I told you we had 18 partner institutions, but of that partner institutions, there's only 7 institutions that actually host courses. But they ebb and flow. So as classes open up and we need a new home for a class, like a botany class, we can host that at a new partner institution. So
In
then
process.
that also brings them in, and so they're not only teaching a Pellissippi State class, they're teaching a VESTA class. So it's a win for them, it's also a win for Tennessee, because you now have a class that you're getting out of the VESTA litany of classes, but it is hosted by an institution within your state.
And we're looking, Pellissippi as a whole is looking at, as was alluded to before with the, what it is, the one Enology, the wine analysis that Barry does.
Wine and must analysis.
Wine and must analysis, they have to go to a 1 day, 2 day,
Yeah, 2-day workshop.
right. We've got the labs. We could be the facility, we just have to get through the paperwork. To where instead of trying to set up a wine must analysis in here, you can do it in a cafeteria. Kind of thing. We've got.
And we'll be doing, I think we're also looking at doing the 2-day sensory workshop out here in Tennessee as well.
It's got a lot of potential, and it's a good avenue to continue this whole educational process. I would say we've got a fledgling agriculture program at Pellissippi. It's growing rapidly. This is giving them an injection of steroids. There are a lot of students already in ag that don't know this avenue exists. We started this past weekend, we're building another barn on our farm. One of the boys that my son has known, they've grown up together, etc., is doing an electrical apprenticeship now, the IBEW apprenticeship. But he has worked for me, and with my sons on our farm, we've grown grapes for 20 years. And we were talking yesterday as we were setting power poles, and he's like, well, I have about 3/4 of this done already. Yeah. If you've got people that have been working for you for a while, there is a lot of, what's the official word? It's prior credit. Pellissippi other schools, you get somebody coming out of the military and they were a medic, they'll automatically clip out of a couple different nursing classes because they can teach it. You understand what I'm saying? So they can get real on-the-job credit for what they've already done on after they do classwork. That can happen with this as well.
And that also is true with the apprenticeship. So in the apprenticeship program, although we have a template and a design, say of the production technician, what the employer is the one that is in charge of what the individual is to do. So we have the outline of suggested number of hours, suggested coursework, but we had, for example, one that came in for a production technician, that the on-site individuals had all the knowledge they needed on the winemaking side of things. They're very, very talented, and they'd gone to Davis, and they just had wealth of knowledge. What they needed the RTI in was on the viticulture side. They didn't have that. So they're using the VESTA courses, and so the RTI descriptor of what they're doing and where they're drawing that information from looks different for them because of the talent pool they had at their facility, and then they do it separately. So it is sculpted to the needs of the employer and the needs of that company. And that's one of the nice things about the apprenticeship program. It really is sculpted to what you need and uses the talent pool that you already have within your facility.
And it goes both ways. This boy has harvested and pruned and planted and worked trellis. Both my sons have. You as the partner can sign off on the fact that they have done their 2,000 hours in the field in those areas. I can guarantee it because, you know, they're only 20 and 24 years old and they've grown grapes for 20 years. They've got more than 2,000 hours in the field. Follow what I'm saying? So that expedites this whole process, which saves money for you, for the whole thing, paperwork. It's a really good program.
So a question to the viticulture curriculum. So your VESTA is mainly Midwest, Middle America. So you actually have moved out here, so the climate.
Our instructors are from all over. So
Okay.
my viticulture instructor, for example, is Joseph Geller. He is the vineyard manager for Trump Vineyards. He's out of Surrey originally, but he got his training at Cornell. Out of Cornell. But I have another
So you have
instructor.
training for all climates of the.
All climates, and our students are from all over. Our students are all over the U.S. and like I say, I think we're at 8 or 10 foreign countries. So we have students from Spain and from France and from Germany and from Minnesota and from southern Texas, and that's one of the reasons why on our seasonal vineyard courses like summer fall viticulture, our summer fall viticulture will start in June and will run until October because I don't know where harvest is depending on where you live.
Right.
So harvest in Texas takes place in July, but harvest in northern Minnesota is probably going to be the tail end of October. So somewhere in there, I've got to have a class that runs across all those seasons, captures all those growing zones. Right. So yes, we are and probably the best explanation of what you're talking about, especially when it comes to viticulture. We teach a solid foundation of science principles in viticulture. Your field experiences teaches the application of those principles in your region, and that's why the field component is so important. You're going to take that solid knowledge of basic viticulture concepts and the botanical aspects, and then you're going to apply it in the region in which you grow, to the great varieties you grow.
There's a book way to prune, and then there's an East Tennessee versus a California versus a New York way to prune. And everybody in here probably has their own way to prune. So that's where the hands-on comes in. And this true regional, you know, you can travel 30-mile radius in East Tennessee and get
Different.
totally different.
Yeah, I can't say enough about the program. I might be a professional student with associate master's, doctorate, and 2 certifications. But going through VESTA and their online coursework and being able to interact with not only professionals in the industry, top academics at the university, but students around the world is the best experience that you'll ever have in education. I mean, it was great. Yeah.
Think of the apprenticeship as your first step. I mean, you're really rapidly gotten this up and going as a group, and it really will separate your employees for you by how they take advantage of it. And it gives them time to get your long-term path planned out for us.
So you said you had 10 positions, the first class is gonna be 10?
First class can be as many as we can get,
Yeah,
or as few as we
yeah.
can get, there's no limit.
I think they were hoping for 10. I think that was like a kind of a.
I think, yeah,
And
that
then
was
right
an
number.
Success and
imaginary
benchmark,
number.
you know.
He said pick a number.
Yeah, you know, we talked about this at the last meeting. Don't think of a class when this overlaps between apprenticeship and like Pellissippi classes, there's no limit. Because the apprenticeship, especially if they're taking an online classes can have 400 students in them. Okay, they've broken up between different faculty, et cetera. I would be as happy as a pig, and you know what, if I had 40 people want to take soils next semester, I would make the room. So, make me work. You know, we want that. We need, you need it, we'll love it, we'll do it.
Jennifer, any comment?
I agree. I think 10 apprentices to begin was a ballpark figure, not knowing anything else about what the demand would be. But Nathan will be primarily coordinating these, so he's young, he can do more than that. So as many as you want to throw at him, we will make it happen, so don't worry about that. And I would also encourage all of you not only to get in touch with Nathan after this session, but stay in close touch with Miss Frida Herndon. They are working on, for the apprenticeships, trying to coax some Department of Labor dollars to help mitigate the cost of this. I don't know what those are, but Miss Frida is working on that. She'll be able to better tell you what they'll be able to get. So don't be put off by potential costs. Just connect with Nathan and Frida and Dr. Milne, and we'll see where we go.
And Nathan and I have decided to be new best friends so that he can think of it and I can try to get the money for it. So we're committed to seeing this through. We're excited for you as an industry. I think it's a great opportunity, and I think it could be become a model for how to progressively build your skill set, beginning with apprenticeship and then going on. So, you know, you may all be going out and doing seminars in some other state before you know it.
And I believe you all have my contact information too, my booklet, my card, got passed around if you did, and there's some extra copies over on the counter if you need anything.
Other questions, Donnie, you say something?
Well, what I'm after is sustainability of the program here. And so I don't want everyone runs out and slams 50 into the program, and then year 2, there's 2 people in the program.
That's a good point.
And then somebody says, what? And then next year it's 5, and this program is dead. I've got 12 people I can run through the program, but they're my long-term employees. So basically I say, if you've got 6 and you need 10, I'll give you 4. Next year, if you've got 8, I can give you 2.
Let me ask an oddball question. How many of you, I've been talking with Don on this for a while, how many other of you have or are thinking about workers or whatnot in this program?
So when you're thinking about that, are you thinking 1, 2, 5, 2?
2, how many? 3, 1?
Jeez,
I'm on 12.
You're one of the 12. 2? Rick?
Yeah, I think we got a couple of GP in there.
Okay. 3? Okay.
And it may, you know, that's a higher number than I anticipated. I'm
Well, I'm saying,
so,
it's flexible though.
yeah, so you could pace yourself. You could do 3 per year for 3 years.
Or we can go up and down.
Yeah.
Whatever you want your sustainable number to be, I will work real hard to give you that number.
Okay.
Let me
I
ask
want
you
the
another
program
question.
to get, I want the program to go on forever.
I like turning this around. This is what I do with my classes. There were some of you that said you don't have anybody that you would put in the program. My question is, being that it's only 10% out of your pocket and a win-win on both sides, what is your reservation? What would entice you to put workers in the program?
Find the right work.
Okay, finding the right, that's a phenomenal statement. I get to go play Custer in Washington in September and tell the National Science Foundation that we can't get students to apply for a scholarship because they don't want to work for a 3.0 GPA. We can't fill students, so we have to turn it down. Yeah, you're gonna have to find the right worker. That's a great point. Any other no hands up? I know I'm calling people out, students hate when I call them out.
That's a good, that's that's probably the best reason.
If you found the right workers, do you think this is a good program?
We're not the right workers, bro.
Well, I'm gonna make them better workers with this program.
Yes.
And then they'll have to work for me because I'm the only one that's got positions that meet.
And you know, if we ultimately have out of this group, say 10, that was the number that was thrown up, life happens and you may end up with 8 that complete it. And you know, that's just the reality. So I think it is important to choose wisely because we're asking them to continue working and to take on this additional load, and they probably have a family and other things they're responsible for as well. So it's a commitment on the students' part as well. So
When exactly is it supposed to start? I may have missed that some corner.
I missed that. I don't know that either. Nathan, do you know?
Adam, the apprenticeships are gonna roll.
Yes,
This
so the on-the-job training, I believe the goal is to get it rolling this harvest, so,
Can we sign off on existing workers' hours for that?
Better get hurry.
from,
Those are
Yeah, I know.
definitely
that's a Nate question, call Nate, but the last conversation, Jennifer might be able to answer, but the last conversation with Nathan was that the August, September start time for on-the-job training should not be an issue. The RTI, we're trying to go for January,
I had January in my mind.
which is, when it comes to funding and how it's gonna be handled, we're working on how things are funneled, if it's through the new wine and grape board, if it's through the TFWA, in terms of just a point of contact. But that discussion, I think, will be solidified, hopefully by the end of September, with applications being able to come in for that portion of it in November.
So we have to apply before we can actually credit those work hours, or can we sort of back?
So you can start the on-the-job training, and Jennifer, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I think you can start the on-the-job training with the program right off the bat. The online class portion is not gonna happen until January.
Right.
Right, I'm just asking just for me.
Well,
If I apply in 3 weeks and we've already started harvesting,
Oh, no.
does the harvest that I did the week before I applied not count?
Just
or-
kind of,
No, Jennifer,
just keep
if
a general
you're
track
not
of
right,
hours and duties.
I'm just curious.
Just keep a little bit of diary.
And-
It can retro.
And again, formally talk to Nathan or Jennifer about that, but.
yeah, I'm pretty sure my discussions with Nathan were that if they've got somebody that has been their harvest foreman for 3 years, they don't have to just start their hours this season. They can give them credit for the amount of harvest they've been working, correct?
Yes, what I had understood from Nathan is that will be on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
So I know some of you do have some extremely experienced employees, so when you have that initial conversation with Nathan, just bring that up. But definitely, if you think you're interested for this harvest, it's August already, you may want to reach out to him even this week.
Yeah, the onus on the sign off for how much work you're giving them credit for falls on you. I mean, there's those that can be honest, those can be dishonest, but if you're dishonest about it, you're not gonna have somebody who's adequately trained. And that's not the whole program.
There's different kinds of work, right?
Yes.
I've got people who come out to the vineyard and they've been hauling grapes for the last 5 years. That doesn't necessarily make them qualified to be crushed. So is there like some sort of, I know
Yes,
there's
the
a lot of
apprenticeship
paperwork
program
involved.
has different, so many
That's
hours
all
at
I
this,
got.
so many hours at
That's all I
this, so
got.
many hours at
Okay.
this.
You pick the
I just don't
certificate.
know what exactly it looks like.
Yeah, and Nathan has a copy of all of those
Yep.
that we've done, so we've got a total of 10, I believe 10 jobs at this point.
I did
So
not
we've
bring
got
that note, I'm sorry.
vineyard manager, vineyard, worker, cellar worker, you've got, but what's probably gonna be the most interest to the majority of you here, and that is the, grape and wine production technician. Because the production technician, in most cases, in, those of us east of the Rockies, is you have somebody who works in the vineyard during harvest and crush, and then as it goes more to crush, then they're in the cellar, and they're working the cellar, and then they're working on some fermentation, and then they're working the bottling line, so they're going into the vineyard and into the winery. So the production technician is somebody who does a little bit of everything. They're the kind of the jack of all trades. And then how much of that you want to be cellar and how much of that you want to be vineyard is really set up by you, the employer. You're the one who decides, you know, hey, this person's really, I need them 2/3 of the time in the vineyard, but when everything's frozen over, we're not doing anything in the vineyard, I need them in the cellar. So I need this part. And you're gonna lay that out. We have a template of what all is on there, and what are the jobs, and how much time, but ultimately, you're gonna tweak that to the individual that you want trained.
The other really sweet thing about it is that if you're not huge, okay, and they can't get all their hours that they would normally get in a season on a really big winery or whatnot, you got a buddy down the road, they can go work for him and get hours at him. They can get their hours at multiple different wineries in the same area. Not geographic area, but same knowledge area, follow what I'm saying? Like if it takes 4 days to prune your grapes and they need 30 days of pruning, they can do 4 at yours, 10
So
at
I
Dom's.
gotta lose them for those days.
Well, you don't have to, I mean, that's.
You don't have to.
That's
That's
up to you.
That's just how you work it out with
Yeah.
Okay.
But there is some challenges to that when it comes to, when you're talking about an employee, and if they are putting in 5 hours down the road, are you paying their 5 hours on their salary, or somebody else paying their
And
5
that-
hours?
those
And who's,
logistics
and
work
with
out with
workman's
the other.
comp, who's covering them while they're on this premises versus your premise? So that's not necessarily an easy thing, but ultimately, you're the one that's in charge. You're the one that's in charge of what they're doing, how many hours they do it, and what RTI goes according to that, or is related to that. And I said, it's laid out, if you have a nice template to start with, you don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to start from square one and go, oh my God, what do they do? It is laid out, now you can just tweak it.
So you're ready for the minutia at this point, to see what it looks like and kind of plan.
Yeah, just what does it look like in practice? I mean, I understand the whole big picture, but you know, what is it?
What's it gonna look like day-to-day
Work like
in your
this,
world?
And we've even already laid out the grid of reporting time, so that all that's already done. We've done so much work to lay it all out, so there's templates out there for everybody, that all you gotta do, and Nathan has those, and so he'll be the one. And Nathan is the one who's carrying the bulk of the paperwork load, filing with the feds and whoever, and reporting and whatnot. That's Nathan's job. So all you have to do is just kind of keep track and journal the hours they do and sign off and got that one checked, got that one checked, got that one checked.
And, you know, as mentioned before, this is kind of you kind of guinea pigs, because honestly, the initial discussion with VESTA started last fall, looking at just community colleges.
Right.
And then we had a discussion with TBR, and it kind of became this bigger thing, that we could, you know, because we are so spread out across the state, how do we really reach as many vineyards and wineries across the state as possible? And the partnership with TBR kind of made sense, and the dollars from workforce, you know, so we're a first for VESTA doing this. We're obviously a first in Tennessee doing this, so there's a little bit of trial and error and learning curve on it. And I will say too, you know, I think it was our discussion in April or May, you know, I said, you know, is it too aggressive to think we can try to roll out on-the-job training this fall? And pretty much everyone said no. Nathan's like, we can do that. We can start the on-the-job training this fall, and the educational component later on. In the wintertime, when things are slow anyway. So I think it's while it is an aggressive schedule, you know, the hope is that Pellissippi can come on board in 2020, fall of 2020, spring of 2021.
Oh, no, no, there shouldn't, fall of 2020 would be the latest.
So, I mean, the goal is really to kind of move it forward. And as it was mentioned too, you know, the production technician kind of fits the guys that are running, like your operation, you know, where you're kind of doing everything. But if you're just a vineyard, there's just vineyard, you know, courses. If you're just a winery, there are winery courses that you can kind of work through, so. Any other questions?
If anybody, I've got business cards and everybody wants my number, you guys probably more interested in what they're doing and what I'm doing. But I'm easy to find.
All right, guys, no other questions? Thank you very much, guys.